What's going on, familia? It's been a long time. I think it's been about 6 months almost that we last talked to each other. Throughout this whole time, a lot has happened, and I really have no excuses for why I haven't made an update. It's been long overdue, so that's exactly what I want to do in this video. So if I remember correctly, we left off on that video getting majorly screwed by that investment property. Like, the tenants that I was supposed to inherit had just left. They lost their job, and so I wasn't going to be able to acquire that first month's rent check. And then right after they left, I was faced with a ton of repairs to get done before I could even rent it out again. And so all of that made me come out of pocket even more. I think that's where we left off on that last video. Now, a lot of things have happened since that point, and that's what I want to share with you guys now. Let's get into it. So we ended up covering up all the holes, getting the house painted, putting in new baseboard. I'm pretty sure you guys saw how we did a little bit on the ceiling of the shower that needed to be done. We also ended up fixing up that big plumbing issue that caused a big flood in the house. And then I was able to also hire out someone to be able to do some electrical work on that property that needed to get done. I forgot to mention that we also had to make repairs to the roof by replacing some shingles and spraying a coat over the whole roof to protect it. And then we also had to make repairs to the AC when it stopped working. After, and only after all of that was done, were we finally able to show the property and put it up for rent on the market. And let me just tell you that I was pretty scared by the time we got to this point, because I was really afraid that I was not going to be able to rent out the property for the same amount that I was going to rent it at initially with the first tenants, which was for $1,500. And the reason I was a little bit scared was because we had seen a little bit of a downturn in rents in that area. Now remember, my property is in Kermit, Texas, which is a really small oil field town where everybody depends on the oil field to do good, to be able to continue to have jobs and have the economy moving in that area. And because the oil had gone down a lot of people had been losing their jobs or just not making enough, and that made everybody want to leave. And because of that, it decreased demand, and because demand decreases, we have to also play to that and decrease our rents. And so I had to play to that, and instead of charging $1,500 a month for rent, I put this rental on the market for $1,200 a month with bills included. Oh yeah, $1,200 a month with bills included. Listen, I want to be upfront and honest with you guys, and don't want to be sugarcoating anything or make it look like I'm making more than what I actually am. Sometimes you got to play the game, and sometimes real estate is that way. But just listen to this. Just listen to the end, because I am still actually making money from this investment property, even though I had gotten pretty screwed up front in the beginning. But before I talk any more about the numbers, I want to talk to you about the process, okay? The process to rent out a property could be pretty stressful, especially if you're a beginner. And I actually have a property manager that takes care of all of that for me. But because this property is in Kermit and my property manager lives in Odessa, which is 45 minutes away, it was kind of hard for them to always be going over and spending 45 minutes to the property and then another 45 minutes back just to show the property to one or two people that were interested on that given day. And so I actually offered to help my property manager show the property, because I thought it would be a good experience for me. And I don't know, I just thought maybe I could learn a thing or two from showing the property to prospective tenants. Now, it was actually kind of fun, but it was also a little stressful. And because Kermit is on my way to work, it's really easy for me to just show the property to anybody that would be interested after work and then make my way on home. So I decided to do this for my property manager a few times, and it's very interesting and enlightening to show the property to prospective tenants, because whenever I would show it to them, I would not let on that I was the actual owner of the property. I would just let them know that I was the property manager. And because they thought that I wasn't the owner, they were very open to me with what they thought about the property. And so it was very enlightening to see what it was that they liked and did not like, and what it was that they were looking for. I mean, in essence, they were able to be very honest with me because they knew that I wasn't the owner. I feel like if I was the owner, they might have held back a lot of things that they didn't like or liked about the property, because maybe they would want to negotiate the price or or just not show off their excitement too much about it. And it was very enlightening because you could actually see like who the property was made for and who it wasn't. Like I remember showing a property to a certain family who was looking for every negative detail and being very nitpicky about everything. I remember that there was someone mentioning that, you know, there was not enough space in the house and that there were no tubs in the house either. Like there were just showers and there were no tubs, and being, you know, pretty picky about all that stuff. And at first it made me feel very bad for not being able to accommodate those things to them. But then I'd have other families come in and they would act very happy that they found a place like this. And it was very enlightening to see that, like, wow, like this other family wasn't really into it, but then this family is. And I guess there's, you know, certain properties that are for certain people and some of them aren't, and they have to look elsewhere. It was just very enlightening to see all that. I remember this certain family that was excited saw that it had 2 bathrooms instead of 1, where I guess they thought that on the pictures and on the details, they thought it only had 1 bathroom. But when we marketed, we said we had 2 bathrooms. And when they walked through it, they were very excited that, like, oh, wow, look, it has 2 bathrooms. And I was like, yeah, like it had 2 bathrooms on the listing. But anyway, and it was just really cool to see that some people were actually really happy to see the way the property looked, because in Kermit, rentals usually don't look that nice. They just kind of put something together. It doesn't matter what paint it has, if it's green or purple or blue. As long as it's painted and as long as it's standing, then it's a rental, and there you go. But we actually try to go, you know, a little bit further into the quality of the rental and actually making sure it had baseboards, making sure that everything worked, making sure that all of the rooms and everything was one color and that everything looked aesthetically pleasing. You know, that was something that a lot of people did appreciate. And so it shows me that I'm doing something right. Anyway, so that's just a couple of things that I learned when I was able to show the property to prospective tenants. Now let's get on to the numbers. Like I mentioned before, I listed the rent for $1,200 a month with bills included. And after the bills are paid, I'm really only left with about $1,000 a month. And then I still have my property management company that takes care of all of the repairs and talking with them about anything that's wrong with the property. And they charged me the 10% of the rent, which they were nice enough to not charge me $1,200 a month, but $1,000 a month. So they only charge me for the money that I make after the bills are paid, which is 10% of $1,000. And obviously that's $100. So I'm really left with $900 a month. But remember, you got to account for all of the expenses. So here they are. It's the bills, it's the property management, but then it's your PITI, which is your principal and your mortgage, your interest, your taxes, and insurance. And sometimes all of that is just combined into one mortgage payment. So you got that, and then you also got any money that you got to set apart for any repairs for later in the future. And so going back to the PITI, that for me is $420. That's my mortgage payment. So when you take $420 away from $900, you're left with $480. Now I know this mortgage payment is really low. It's actually lower than a lot of car payments out there. That's why I think that this property was still such a good deal, because the payment is just so low. Anyway, so I'm left with $480 a month. Now I gotta set money aside for any repairs that I see in the future. Now this property is really small, and I've already come up with a lot of upfront cash to make a lot of repairs on the property, but I still want to be very conservative with how much money I put into like a little savings account for future repairs, because the property is still fairly old, and I don't know, I just feel like anything can go wrong, and like I've experienced that now, and so I just want to make sure that I'm covered for that. And I'm just going to play it by ear, but I'm going to be very conservative at the beginning. And then once I feel like I've got a good enough stash for any repairs, then I'll be able to take more upfront cash. But for now, I am taking $350 every month away from anything that's left over to be able to stash for future repairs. So let's take away $350 from the $480 that were left over, and I'm left with $130. Now, when we multiply $130 by 12, because there's 12 months in a year, we get $1,560. And then when we divide the $1,560 that I make a year from this rental property, and you divide it by how much I invested, which was around $20,000, you actually get 0.078. And then when you make that into a percentage, you get 7.8%. Now, that's a 7.8% cash on cash return. That is completely different from the cash on cash return that I had expected or calculated, I think like 2 videos ago, which was for me, like 8 months ago when I first bought this property. That's kind of embarrassing, but I want to be completely upfront and honest with you on how I'm going about all this real time and giving you more or less what my actual returns are, and not trying to fluff things up or make it seem like I'm making a ton of money, which I am making money on it. This is still actually not bad. A 7.8% is still, that's borderline, not that good, but it's still fair. And again, you can play with these numbers because I'm setting aside $350 a month for repairs in the future, which you could play around a little bit with that. You can, take away $50 and only put in $300 a month for repairs, but I'm being very conservative with this. And so a 7.8% return is not bad at all for me, and I'm very happy still that I acquired this property, because I'm learning so much about real estate investing on what properties I should be going after, which properties I would maybe want to stay away from in the future, and what I can do to better my returns and maximize my returns. It's been such a big learning process, and I'm super grateful because in a way it keeps me humble. It's taught me a lot about how to renovate properties as well, how to make repairs on different things. Like I never imagined I would be doing plumbing work. And so it's very awesome. I know that I'm growing and that it's teaching me so much. And that kind of stuff right there is completely invaluable. I'm getting high returns on all of that. And so thank you so much for watching this video and sticking around all the way to the end. It's been really fun making this video. I don't know why I stopped. I have been busy and all of that, but it's still no excuse. I will continue to make videos so that you guys can continue to watch my journey, so that I can continue to learn and share. And then hopefully you guys get something in return too by learning from my mistakes, and hopefully getting inspired to create some wealth and grow a portfolio, build some assets. Anyway, it's time for me to go. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.